The stars had always been quiet above Titan. For 300 years, humanity's first major colony outside Earth had grown in peace. Families lived there. Children played in the dome cities. People fell in love, grew old, and died without ever knowing. War. Hyan stood at the window of his small apartment, watching his daughter Mina draw pictures on the floor. She was only 7 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that made everything feel okay. His wife, Sora, was cooking dinner in the kitchen. A smell of food filled the room. "Daddy, look," Mina said, holding up her drawing. It showed 3 figures holding hands under a yellow sun. "That's us." Hyan smiled and knelt beside her. "It's beautiful," he said. He did not know that in less than 1 hour, his entire world would burn. Far above the colony, hidden behind the rings of Saturn, 12 massive ships waited in the darkness. They belonged to the Valari Empire, a civilization that had ruled 40 star systems for 10,000 years. The Valari were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. They believed themselves to be the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had never lost a war. Their commander, a general named Torvax, looked at the small human colony on his screen. He saw the domed cities, the farms, the families. He saw weakness. "These creatures call themselves humans," Torvax said to his officers. "Our scouts say they have only existed in space for a few centuries. They are young. They are soft. They will make excellent slaves." One of his officers spoke up. "Sir, should we not try to communicate first? Perhaps they will surrender peacefully." Torvax laughed. The sound was cold and harsh. "Why waste time with words? Look at them. They have no warships, no weapons. They are nothing." He gave the order to attack. On Titan, Yuna was having a normal day at work. She was the colony's ambassador, responsible for communication with other species. In her 50 years of life, she had met many aliens. Most were peaceful traders who wanted nothing more than to exchange goods and stories. When the alarm started screaming, she thought it was a drill. Then she looked out the window and saw fire falling from the sky. The first bombs hit the eastern district. Buildings exploded into dust. The ground shook so hard that Yuna fell to her knees. Through the window, she could see people running, screaming, dying. Her communication device buzzed. A face appeared on the screen. Gray skin, 4 arms, cold eyes. It was Torvax. "Attention, humans," he said. "Your colony now belongs to the Valari Empire. Surrender immediately, and some of you may live. Resist, and you will all die." Yuna's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "This is Ambassador Yuna of the Titan colony. You have attacked a peaceful settlement without warning. You have killed innocent people. I am giving you one chance to stop this attack and leave our space." Torvax stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed again. "You give me a chance?" he said. "Little creature, do you know who I am? I have destroyed civilizations older than your entire species. I have burned worlds to ash. What can you possibly do to me?" Yuna looked at the burning city behind her. She thought about the families, the children, the people who had done nothing wrong. She thought about all the blood on the ground. "You will find out," she said quietly. Torvax ended the communication without another word. The bombing continued. Across the colony, Hyan was running through the streets with Mina in his arms. Sora was beside him, holding his hand. The sky was red with fire. Buildings collapsed around them. People screamed for help that would never come. "Keep running," Hyan said. "Don't stop. Don't look back." They reached the emergency shelter just as another bomb fell. The explosion was so close that Hyan felt the heat on his skin. He pushed Sora and Mina through the door and turned to follow them. That was when the world turned white. The blast threw him backward. He hit the ground hard and felt something break inside him. When he opened his eyes, the shelter was gone. There was only a hole in the ground, filled with fire and smoke. Sora! He screamed, "Mina!" He crawled toward the hole, his body broken and bleeding. He dug through the rubble with his bare hands until his fingers were raw. He called their names again and again, but no one answered. They were gone. His wife, his daughter, his entire world. Hyan lay in the ashes and screamed until his voice broke. Above him, the Valari ships continued their attack, not caring about the lives they destroyed. To them, humans were nothing. Just insects to be crushed. The attack lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, 80% of the colony was destroyed. 40,000 people were dead. The survivors hid in the ruins, too shocked to cry. Yuna was one of them. She had a deep cut on her forehead and burns on her arms, but she was alive. She walked through the destroyed streets, stepping over bodies, and felt something cold grow inside her heart. She found Hyan sitting alone in the ashes. His eyes were empty. His hands were covered in blood. "They killed my family," he said. His voice was flat and dead. "They killed everyone." Yuna knelt beside him. "I know," she said. "What do we do now?" Yuna looked up at the sky. The Valari ships were still there, circling like vultures. They thought the battle was over. They thought they had won. They were wrong. "Now," Yuna said, "we send a message to Earth, and then we make them pay for every single life they took." Hyan looked at her. For the first time since the attack, something moved in his empty eyes. It was not hope. It was not sadness. It was something darker. Something that had been sleeping inside humanity for a very long time. It was rage. On the Valari command ship, Torvak celebrated his easy victory. He ordered his officers to begin collecting the human survivors for slavery. He sent a report to the Empire, saying that the conquest of the humans would be complete within days. He did not know that his report would be his last. He did not know that across the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, billions of humans were watching the footage of the attack. He did not know that humanity had been hiding its true strength for centuries, waiting for a threat worthy of unleashing it. He did not know that he had just made the worst mistake in the history of the galaxy. The war had begun. Earth had not seen war in 200 years. The old weapons had been put away. The old soldiers had died. People lived in peace, believing that the universe was a safe place. They were wrong. When the footage from Titan arrived, the world stopped. Every screen on every continent showed the same thing. Cities burning, people dying, children screaming. 40,000 dead in a single day. An entire colony destroyed by creatures who thought humans were nothing but insects. In Seoul, a young woman named Nari watched the footage in her apartment. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. She recognized one of the burning buildings on the screen. It was her grandmother's home. Her grandmother, who had taught her to cook. Her grandmother, who had told her stories about old Korea. Her grandmother, who had promised to visit Earth next year. Nari's phone rang. She already knew what the message would say. "I'm sorry," her mother said through tears. "Grandmother is gone." Nari did not cry. She did not scream. She simply hung up the phone and walked to her closet. In the back, hidden behind old clothes, was a box she had not opened in years. Inside was her military uniform from when she served in the Earth Defense Force. She had left the military 5 years ago, thinking she would never need to fight again. Now she put on the uniform and looked at herself in the mirror. "I'm coming for you," she whispered. Across the world, millions of others made the same choice. Old soldiers found their weapons. Young people signed up to fight. Scientists stopped their research and started building things that could kill. Humanity was waking up. And it was angry. In Geneva, the World Council met in emergency session. Leaders from every nation sat around a massive table, their faces pale with shock and fury. At the head of the table stood Admiral Tay, commander of the Earth Defense Force. Tay was 70 years old, but his body was strong and his mind was sharp. He had gray hair and a face full of scars from battles fought long ago. He had seen humanity at its worst and at its best. Now he would see it become something new. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "you have all seen what happened on Titan. The Valari Empire attacked without warning. They killed 40,000 of our people. They planned to enslave the survivors and conquer our entire species." One of the council members, a woman from Europe, spoke up. "What can we do? We have no warships. We have no weapons. We haven't fought a war in centuries." Tay smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "That," he said, "is what we wanted the galaxy to think." He pressed a button, and the screens around the room changed. They showed images that made the council members gasp. Massive warships hidden in underground bases. Weapons that could destroy entire planets. Soldiers trained in secret for exactly this kind of moment. "For 200 years, Tay said, we have hidden our true military power. We showed the galaxy a peaceful face while building an army in the shadows. We hoped we would never need to use it. But the Valari have made that choice for us." The council was silent. They had no idea. None of them had known. "How many ships?" someone asked. 10,000 warships, Tay said. 5 million trained soldiers. Weapons that the galaxy has never seen before. And something else. Something that makes us different from every other species in the universe. He looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "We never give up. We never stop. We never forgive." The Valari think they know what war is. They have no idea. They have never fought humans before. The council voted. It was unanimous. For the first time in 200 years, Earth declared war. In the days that followed, humanity transformed. The hidden bases opened. The warships rose from underground hangars and flew into space. Soldiers put on armor that made them stronger, faster, and harder to kill. Scientists have finished weapons that had been waiting in storage for generations. NAR, I was among the first to volunteer. She was sent to a training camp in the mountains of Korea, where thousands of others like her prepared for battle. The training was hard. Some people quit. Some people died. But Nari never stopped. One night, her commanding officer found her alone in the training yard, practicing combat moves in the dark. "You should rest," the officer said. "We leave for space in 3 days." Nari did not stop moving. "I'll rest when they're dead." The officer watched her for a moment. "You lost someone on Titan?" "My grandmother. I'm sorry." Nari finally stopped and looked at him. Her eyes were cold and hard. "Don't be sorry. Help me kill them." The officer nodded slowly. "We will. All of them." Meanwhile, Admiral Tay was preparing the fleet for departure. 10,000 warships gathered in orbit around Earth, their metal bodies blocking out the stars. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. But Tay knew that numbers alone would not win this war. The Valari had more ships. They had more soldiers. They had 10,000 years of experience in conquest. What they did not have was humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to adapt. "Sir," one of his officers said, "we've received intelligence about the Valari military. They fight the same way they fought for thousands of years. They rely on overwhelming force. They don't expect resistance." Tay nodded. "Then we give them something they've never seen before. Speed, surprise, chaos. We don't fight their war. We fight our war." He gave the orders. The fleet would not attack directly. Instead, they would strike where the Valari least expected it. Supply lines, communication systems, Isolated outposts. They would make the enemy bleed slowly, one cut at a time. On the day the fleet departed, billions of people watched from Earth. They stood in the streets and looked up at the sky, watching the ships fly toward the darkness between the stars. Nari was on one of those ships. She stood at a window, looking back at Earth. It looked so small and fragile from here, a tiny blue dot in an ocean of black. "We'll be back," she whispered. "I promise." Beside her, another soldier spoke. "You think we can win?" Nari thought about her grandmother. She thought about the children who died on Titan. She thought about the Valari, commander who laughed while he killed innocent people. "We're not fighting to win," she said. "We're fighting to make sure they lose everything. There's a difference." The other soldier did not ask what she meant. Back on the Valari command ship, General Torvax was receiving reports from his scouts. The humans were mobilizing. They had more ships than the scouts expected. "This is impossible," Torvax said. "Our intelligence said they had no military." "The intelligence was wrong, sir," one of his officers said nervously. "It appears the humans have been hiding their strength." Torvax was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Good. I was worried this would be too easy. It will be more satisfying to crush them now." He did not understand what was coming. He could not understand what was coming, because the Valari had studied many species. They had conquered many worlds. They thought they knew what war looked like, but they had never fought humans. They had never faced a species that would burn its own cities to deny them to the enemy. They had never faced soldiers who would die smiling if it meant taking one more enemy with them. Had never faced a species that knew how to hate. Admiral Tay looked at the stars ahead and spoke quietly to himself. "You wanted a war," he said. "Now you have one. And by the time it's over, you will wish you had never heard the name human." The fleet disappeared into the darkness, carrying 5 million soldiers toward the enemy. The hunt was about to begin. Commander Soong had not slept in 4 days. Neither had his team. They did not need to. That was the first thing the Valari did not understand about humans. When they were angry enough, when they were focused enough, they could push their bodies beyond all limits. Sleep became optional. Pain became background noise. The only thing that mattered was the mission dot, and their mission was simple. Make the Valari bleed. Sung's team was small, only 20 soldiers, but they moved like shadows through the enemy's supply station. The station was huge, filled with food, weapons, and fuel that the Valari fleet needed to continue their conquest. Without it, their ships would starve. "Team 2, status report," Soong whispered into his communicator. "Charges are set," a voice replied. "Ready on your signal? Team 3? Guards are down. All security systems disabled." Soong smiled in the darkness. The Valari thought they were safe this far from the front lines. They thought humans would fight the way every other species fought. Direct attacks. Formal battles, ships against ships. They were wrong. Soong pressed the button. The explosions started small, then grew into a wall of fire that consumed the entire station. Thousands of tons of supplies burned in seconds. The Valari guards ran in panic, trying to save what they could. They never saw Sung's team slip away into the night. This was how humans fought. Not with honor, not with rules, with shadows and fire and endless, patient hatred. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were happening every day. Human teams struck supply lines, communication towers, and isolated outposts. They killed officers and vanished before anyone could respond. They left messages written in the blood of their enemies. "We are coming." The Valari did not know how to respond. Their commanders sent reports to the Empire, saying that the humans were using dishonorable tactics, that real warriors would face them in open battle, that this was not how war should be fought. The humans did not care about honor. They only cared about winning. On the front lines, Nari was part of a larger assault force. They had been ordered to take back a human colony that the Valari had captured weeks ago. The colony was called New Hope, and 5,000 human prisoners were being held there as slaves. Nari looked at the colony through her helmet's display. She could see the Valari guards walking between the buildings. She could see the human prisoners working in the fields, their backs bent and their spirits broken. "Remember," her squad leader said, "priority is the prisoners. Get them out alive." "What about the Valari?" someone asked. The squad leader's voice was cold. "No prisoners." The attack began at sunset. Human ships came out of nowhere, their weapons tearing through the Valari defensive grid. Ground teams dropped from the sky in pods that crashed through the rooftops of enemy buildings. Nari hit the ground running. A rifle was in her hands before she even stood up. A Valari guard appeared in front of her, raising his weapon. She shot him 3 times in the chest before he could fire. "Move!" her squad leader shouted. "Building 4! The prisoners are in Building 4. Nari ran. Bullets flew around her. Explosions shook the ground. She did not stop. She did not slow down. She climbed over the bodies of enemies and kept going. When she reached Building 4, she found the prisoners locked in cages. They were thin and weak, with bruises on their faces and fear in their eyes. Some of them looked up when they saw her, not believing what they were seeing. "You're human," one of them whispered. "You came for us." Nari broke the lock on the cage. "We never leave our people behind," she said. "Can you walk?" "I don't know. Then I'll carry you." She lifted the prisoner onto her back and ran toward the extraction point. Other soldiers were doing the same thing all around her, carrying the wounded, protecting the weak, fighting off the Valari with one hand while holding a comrade with the other. The Valari tried to stop them. They sent reinforcements. They called for backup. But the human ships in orbit destroyed every transport that tried to land. The human ground teams killed every soldier that got in their way. By morning, the colony was free. All 5,000 prisoners were on their way back to safety. The Valari garrison was destroyed, every single soldier dead. Nari sat on the ground, her armor covered in blood that was not hers. Her body was tired, but her heart was full of fire. She looked at the sunrise and thought about her grandmother. "One more victory," she said quietly. "One step closer." Back on his command ship, General Torvax was receiving more bad news. His supply lines were being destroyed faster than he could protect them. His outposts were falling one by one. His soldiers were dying in numbers that he had never expected. How is this possible? He shouted at his officers. They are only humans. They are primitive. They should be easy to defeat. One of his officers stepped forward nervously. "Sir, our intelligence about the humans was incomplete. They are more capable than we believed." "More capable?" Torvax grabbed the officer by his throat. "They are destroying us. Their ships are faster than ours. Their weapons are stronger than ours. Their soldiers fight like wild animals." He threw the officer to the ground and turned to look at the map of the war. Red markers showed human attacks, and there were hundreds of them. Every day, more of his territory fell into enemy hands. "They don't fight like any species we've seen before," another officer said. "They don't follow the rules of war. They attack from everywhere. They never stop. They never rest. Our soldiers are afraid of them." Torvax said nothing. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Admiral Tay watched the same reports on his command ship, but his mood was different. The war was going well, better than he had hoped. "Sir," one of his officers said, "our forces have recaptured 12 human colonies in the past month. We've destroyed 40% of the enemy's supply network. Their fleet is struggling to maintain operations. Tay nodded slowly. And our losses? Low, sir. Much lower than expected. Tay looked out the window at the stars. The Valari thought they understood war. They thought it was about ships and soldiers and territory. They were wrong. War was about will. It was about who wanted victory more. It was about who was willing to sacrifice everything to win. The Valari had conquered many species, but they had never faced an enemy who would rather die than surrender. They had never faced an enemy who could turn every defeat into a reason to fight harder. They had never faced humans. Send word to Commander Sum, Tay said. Tell him to continue the attacks on their supply lines and prepare the main fleet. It's almost time for the next phase. The next phase, sir? Tay smiled. It was the smile of a man who knew a secret that his enemies could not imagine. We've been hurting them, he said. Now it's time to break them. Far away, on a small planet in captured territory, Hyan was leading a resistance group against the Valari occupation. He had not left the war zone since the attack on Titan. He had not slept in a real bed. He had not known peace, but he had learned something important about himself. He was good at killing. Every night, he led raids against Valari patrols. Every morning, he counted the bodies of his enemies. Every time he pulled the trigger, he saw his daughter's face. Are you okay? One of his soldiers asked him one night. Hyan looked at his hands. They were steady now. They never shook anymore. No, he said. But I don't need to be okay. I just need to keep fighting. The soldier nodded. He understood. They all understood. The hunt would continue until the enemy was destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed. Every last one of them. That was the human way. The Valari homeworld was called Valaris Prime. For 10,000 years, no enemy had ever touched its soil. No foreign ship had ever entered its sky. It was the heart of an empire that ruled 40 star systems. Home to 15 billion beings who believed they were the masters of the galaxy. Today, they would learn the truth. General Hannah stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the blue-green planet on her screen. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and a face that showed no emotion. She had fought in more battles than she could count. She had seen things that would break most people, but she had never done what she was about to do. All ships, report status, she said. One by one, her captains responded. 3,000 warships were in position around the Valari homeworld. They had traveled across the galaxy in secret, using routes that no one else knew. They had passed through Valari defenses like ghosts. Now they were here. And the Valari did not know it. Communications, Hannah said. Open a channel to the planet. The screen changed. A Valari face appeared, not Torvax, but another leader. He was old and important, dressed in the robes of the High Council. His forearms trembled when he saw the human ships behind Hannah. This is impossible, he said. How did you get here? Our defenses. Your defenses are gone, Hannah said calmly. Your fleet is scattered. Your General Torvax is running for his life. And now we are here at your homeworld with enough firepower to turn your planet into dust. The Valari leader's face went pale. What do you want? Surrender. Complete and unconditional. Admit that your attack on our colony was a crime. Return all human prisoners. Pay for the damage you caused. And guarantee that you will never attack any human world again. The leader was silent for a long moment. Hannah could see him thinking, calculating. She knew what he was about to do. We will never surrender to primitive creatures like you, he said. His voice was proud, but his hands were shaking. The Valari Empire does not bow to anyone. If you attack our world, every species in the galaxy will come to our defense. Hannah almost laughed. Almost. No, they won't, she said. We have already spoken to your neighbors. They hate you. They fear you. They have been waiting for someone to challenge you for thousands of years. When we destroy you, they will celebrate." The leader said nothing. "You have 1 hour to decide," Hana said. "Surrender, or we will show you what humans do to their enemies." She cut the transmission. The hour passed slowly. Hana used the time to check her fleet's positions and make sure every ship was ready. She knew the Valari would not surrender. Their pride would not allow it. They had ruled for too long. They had forgotten what it felt like to lose. They were about to remember. When the hour ended, the Valari sent their response. It was not a surrender. It was a fleet of warships rising from the planet's surface, ready to defend their homeworld. Hana watched them come. There were about 500 ships, all they had left after months of human attacks. They were outnumbered 6-1. "All ships," she said, "engage." The battle for Velaris Prime began. Human ships moved like wolves, fast and coordinated. They struck at the Velari fleet from every direction, never staying still, never giving the enemy a clear target. Missiles flew through space. Lasers cut through metal. Ships exploded into balls of fire. The Velari fought hard. They were defending their home, their families, their entire civilization. But they were fighting against an enemy that had spent months learning how to kill them. Every weakness had been studied. Every tactic had been prepared. Within 2 hours, the Velari fleet was destroyed. Hana watched the last enemy ship break apart. Its crew was screaming over the radio, begging for mercy. She turned off the sound. "Target the military installations on the surface," she ordered. "All of them." "Sir," one of her officers said carefully, "the installations are near cities. There will be civilian casualties." Hana turned to look at him. Her eyes were cold. "They killed 40,000 of our people on Titan," she said. "Children, families, innocents. Did they worry about civilian casualties then?" The officer was silent. "Do it." The bombardment began. Human ships fired at targets across the planet, military bases, weapons factories, government buildings. Explosions rose from the surface like flowers of fire. The Velari screamed and ran and hid, but there was nowhere to hide. This was the reckoning. On the ground, 15 billion Velari watched the sky fall. They had never known fear like this. For 10,000 years, they had been the ones causing destruction. Now they understood what it felt like to be on the other side. Mothers held their children. Fathers tried to protect their families. Young and old alike looked up at the human ships and knew that their world would never be the same. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, every military target on the planet had been destroyed. The Velari had no weapons left, no ships, no way to fight back, but the cities were still standing. The people were still alive. Hana opened another channel to the planet. "This was your warning," she said. "We could have destroyed everything. We could have killed every single one of you. But we chose not to. Not because we are weak. Not because we are kind. We chose not to because we want you to remember." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Remember this day. Remember what we did to you. Remember that we could do it again, anytime we want. And remember that if you ever attack humanity again, if you ever even think about hurting our people, we will come back. And next time, we will not show mercy." The transmission ended. On the surface, the Velari High Council gathered in their damaged chambers. They had no choice left. Their military was gone. Their pride was broken. Their only option was survival. They surrendered. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Velari Empire, the most powerful civilization in known space, had been defeated by humans in less than 3 months. Other species watched in shock. Some celebrated. Some became afraid. Humanity had announced itself to the universe. Back on her ship, Hana received a message from Admiral Tay. "Well done," the message said. But we're not finished yet. Torvax is still alive. He's running, hiding in the outer systems. We need to find him." Hannah nodded slowly. She understood. The war was won, but there was still one thing left to do. Justice. On a distant moon, far from any civilized world, General Torvax hid in a small base with the last of his loyal soldiers. There were only 50 of them left. The rest were dead or captured. Torvax sat in the darkness, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 months ago, he had been a great general. He had conquered worlds. He had commanded armies. He had laughed while he killed innocent humans. Now he was nothing. A fugitive. A coward. Hiding in the dark while his empire burned. He still did not understand how it had happened. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy to defeat. How had they become this unstoppable force of destruction? His communicator buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "We know where you are. We are coming." It was signed by someone named Hyan. Torvax threw the communicator against the wall. His soldiers looked at him with fear in their eyes. "Prepare for battle," he ordered. "They will not take me alive." But even as he said the words, he knew they were meaningless. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The moon had no name. It was just a rock floating in the darkness at the edge of known space. The perfect place to hide, but not good enough. Hyan stood at the front of the assault team, looking at the small base through the scope of his weapon. Somewhere inside, General Torvax was waiting. The alien who had ordered the attack on Titan. The monster who had killed his wife and daughter. For 3 months, Hyan had hunted this creature across the galaxy. He had followed rumors and whispers. He had tracked ships and decoded messages. He had killed anyone who tried to stop him. Now, finally, the hunt was over. "Team ready?" he asked through his communicator. "Ready," Nari's voice responded. She was part of the team. She had asked to be here for this moment. "Remember the mission," Hyan said. "Torvax dies. No exceptions. No mercy. Understood?" Hyan took a deep breath. Then he gave the order, "Move." The assault was quick and brutal. Human soldiers poured into the base from every direction. They moved through the corridors like ghosts, killing every Valari they found. Some of the enemies tried to fight back. Some tried to run. None of them succeeded. Hyan led the way. His rifle never stopped firing. His body moved with the ease of a man who had done this 100 times before. He was not angry anymore. He was not sad. He was simply empty, except for one purpose. Within 10 minutes, the base was silent. All of Torvax's soldiers were dead. Only the general remained. Hyan found him in the deepest room of the base, sitting in a chair with a weapon in his hands. The alien looked different now, smaller, weaker. His forearms hung at his sides, and his gray skin was pale with fear. "You're the one," Torvax said. "The one who's been hunting me." Hyan stopped walking. He stood in the doorway, his weapon pointed at the general's head. "You killed my family," Hyan said. "On Titan. You laughed while you burned our city. You called us insects." Torvax was silent for a moment. Then, incredibly, he laughed again. It was a weak, broken sound. "I did," he said. "I killed thousands of your kind. I enjoyed it. Is that what you want to hear?" Hyan did not move. "I want to know why. Why?" Torvax leaned forward. "Because you were weak. Because you were nothing. Because the galaxy belongs to the strong, and you were just another species waiting to be conquered. And now?" Torvax's laughter died. He looked at the human standing before him, at the cold eyes, the steady hands, the complete lack of fear, and finally understood what he had done. "Now I see the truth," he whispered. "You were never weak. You were just sleeping, and we woke you up. Hyan nodded slowly. Yes, you did. He pulled the trigger. The sound of the shot echoed through the base and then faded into silence. Torvax fell backward, a hole in his head where his fourth eye used to be. His body twitched once and then went still. It was over. Hyan stood there for a long time, looking at the corpse of his enemy. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. He had thought it would bring him peace. He had thought it would fill the emptiness inside him. It did not. Nari found him still standing there, his weapon lowered, his face blank. It's done, she said quietly. We won. Hyan did not respond. What do you want to do now? She asked. Hyan thought about the question. What did he want? He had spent so long focused on revenge that he had forgotten how to want anything else. His wife was gone. His daughter was gone. The war was over, and he was still alive. I don't know, he finally said. I don't know how to stop fighting. Nari put a hand on his shoulder. Then don't stop. There are other people out there who need help. Other wars being fought. Other families being destroyed. She looked at him with understanding. We can give them what we couldn't give ourselves. A chance. Hyan looked at her. For a moment, something moved in his eyes. Not peace, not happiness, but something like purpose. Okay, he said. Let's go. They left the base together, walking out into the cold darkness of the moon. Behind them, the bodies of their enemies lay still and silent. The war with the Velari was over. It had lasted exactly 93 days. In that time, the most powerful empire in the galaxy had been broken. Their military was destroyed. Their leaders were dead or imprisoned. Their people lived in fear, knowing that the humans could return at any moment. The rest of the galaxy watched in amazement. Species that had been conquered by the Velari celebrated their freedom. Species that had remained neutral made sure to send messages of friendship to Earth. Even the oldest and most powerful civilizations paid attention to the small blue planet that had defeated an empire on Earth. People celebrated in the streets. The war was won. The enemy was defeated. Humanity had proven itself to be more than insects, more than slaves, more than victims. But the celebrations were not pure joy. Too many people had died. Too many families had been destroyed. The victory was real, but so was the cost. Ambassador Yuna stood before the World Council, giving her final report on the war. She was older now, with gray in her hair and new lines on her face. But her voice was still strong. We won, she said. But we must remember how we won. We showed the galaxy what humans are capable of when we are angry. We showed them that we are the most dangerous species they have ever known. She paused, looking at the faces around her. Now we must show them something else. We must show them that we are also capable of peace, of building, of creating something better than what came before. The galaxy is watching us. They are afraid of us. That fear can be useful, but it can also be dangerous. What do you suggest? A council member asked. I suggest we reach out to other species. Form alliances. Build trade relationships. Show them that humanity is not just a destroyer. We are also builders. We are also healers. We are also friends. The council discussed her words for many hours. In the end, they agreed. Earth would extend hands of friendship to any species that wanted peace, but they would also keep their weapons ready. Just in case. Months later, Hyan stood on the surface of Titan. The colony was being rebuilt. New buildings rose from the ashes. New families moved into new homes. Life was returning to the place where so much death had happened. Hyan walked through the streets until he found the place where his apartment used to stand. There was nothing there now but fresh earth and growing plants. He knelt down and touched the ground. Somewhere beneath his fingers, Buried in the soil were the ashes of his wife and daughter. "We won," he whispered. "I wish you could see it. I wish you were here." The wind blew gently across his face. It almost felt like an answer. He stayed there until the sun set, watching the stars appear one by one in the sky. Those same stars had once carried enemies who destroyed his world. Now they carried hope. New colonies. New dreams. New generations of humans who would never know the fear that his generation had known. "I'll protect them," he said. "All of them. For as long as I live, I'll make sure no one ever hurts us again." He stood up and walked away. There was work to do. There was always work to do, but for the first time in months, he did not feel empty. He felt ready. The galaxy would remember what humanity had done. They would remember the war. They would remember the fear. But they would also remember what came after. Because humans were not just killers. They were not just soldiers. They were builders, dreamers, lovers, and creators. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but they were also the most hopeful, and now, finally, they were free. Silence fell across the stars. Not the silence of death, but the silence of peace, of waiting, of new beginnings. The war was over. The future had begun.